We continue now at the top of Daf Pei Vav Amud Beis Mesechet Kesuvos. This is Kesuvos Daf 86b. On the previous summit, the Gemara had asked, what happens if we say that paying up a debt is a mitzvah, and the person says, I don't want to do the mitzvah. And so the Gemara now answers, no, when it comes to mitzvahs aseh, makin oso ad sheteitze nafsho. If a person refuses to do a mitzvah aseh, unlike a mitzvah lo aseh, where you just get the 40 malchus, when it comes to a mitzvah aseh, we give the person malchus until teitze nafsho, meaning to say, until he dies, meaning to say that we force him to do that mitzvah. And the Gemara continues with the two dots. Boy minei Rami Bar Chama me Rav Chisda. Rami Bar Chama asked Rav Chisda the following question: Hareza gitech velo tiskar shibo ela la'achar shloshim yom. Let's say a husband gives a wife a get, and he says, "Here's your get, but you will not be divorced until after 30 days. V'halcha v'nichaso b'tzidei rishus harabim." And she goes and she places the get at the sides of the rishus harabim, and that's where it is after 30 days. Mahu, what would be the halacha? Amar Lei said to him, Eina meguresha, she is not going to be divorced. It's in an area where a kinyan cannot be made. Mida Ravu Shmuel, and that comes from the statement of Rav and Shmuel, the Ravu Shmuel Darmei Tarvayu, because Rav and Shmuel both say, V'hu shetziborin u'munachin b'rishus harabim. It talks about the fact that if it is in rishus harabim, that's an area where you cannot make a kinyan. Rashi over here says, V'hu shetziborin gavi masnisin dekotani hakodem zoch. It says it's like in an area of hefker in that situation, and anyone who gets it first is going to be zoche. You see that if something's in Rishus Harabim, the owners don't acquire it all. Elim kain magbio, unless they lift it up. Therefore, after 30 days, it's not considered in her Rishus, and therefore she will not be divorced. And the Gemara says, V'tzidei Rishus Harabim ki Rishus Harabim damu. The sides of Rishus Harabim are going to be the same as Rishus Harabim itself. What is the sides of Rishus Harabim? Tzidei Rishus Harabim samach l'ksolim. It means near the walls. She'in derech b'nei adam lavor sham u'leschachech b'kosolim. People don't really want to walk in that area because then they're going to rub against the walls, and therefore it's the same as Rishus Harabim. It is not going to be a kinyan. But the Gemara continues, Adarab, on the contrary, Megureshes mid Rav Nachman, she really should be divorced because of the statement of Rav Nachman, Damar Rav Nachman, Amar Rabba Bar Avua, because Rav Nachman said that Rabba Bar Avua said, Ha'omer l'chaveiro mishoch parazu, if a person says to his friend, pull this cow, v'lo kenuya lachad lachar shloshim yom, but it's not going to be a kinyan until after 30 days, Kane, then he does acquire it, V'afilo omedus ba'agam, even if it is standing in the swamp. So my love is it not? Hainu agam v'hainu tzidei rishus harabim, that an agam and the sides of rishus harabim are the same thing, and really it should be an area where you can make a kinyan. The Gemara says, lo, no, agam l'chud v'tzidei rishus harabim l'chud, and agam is one thing, tzidei rishus harabim is a separate thing. You cannot compare the two. And the Gemara continues, Ika Diamri, some have a version as follows, Amar le Megureshes mid Rav Nachman, that first he answered him, she is divorced, because of what Rav Nachman said. V'tzidei rishus harabim ka'agam dami, and we should assume that tzidei rishus harabim is the same as an agam. And then the Gemara said, Adarab, on the contrary, Eina Megureshes, she's not divorced, mid Rav u'Shmuel, based on the statement of Rav and Shmuel, my love, hainu rishus harabim, hainu tzidei rishus harabim, is it not that we should say rishus harabim and tzidei rishus harabim are identical? And then the Gemara says, lo, no, Rishus Harabim l'chud, but Tzidei Rishus Harabim l'chud. Rishus Harabim is one thing, and Tzidei Rishus Harabim is another thing. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, Hamoshe ves ishto chenvonis, o shamina apetropio. Let's say a person takes his wife and says, "You're going to be you'll be in charge of the store. You'll be the chenvonis." Or let's say he makes her the caretaker over the property. Hareza mashbia calls man sheyirtza, so he can force her to take an oath anytime he wants because she's now dealing with his business with that property. So he can force her to take an oath to make sure everything has been appropriated properly. Rabbi Eliezer says, "Afilu al pilcha v'alisasla." He can even make her take an oath on her spindle and on her dough, meaning even things that are not relevant to the business but relevant to the home. He can make her take an oath with regards to that as well. And the Gemara says, they asked the following question, Rabbi Eliezer al yedei gilgul ka'amar o lechatzchila ka'amar. Rabbi Eliezer says he's allowed to make her take an oath even on things that have to do with the home. Does he mean to say that's through gilgul shvua, meaning you're already making her take an oath with regards to the business or the store? So once you're doing that, you can roll on to that additional oaths as well. Or maybe Rabbi Eliezer means to go even further and say even if there's no business going on over here, even if she's not the chenvonis, she's not the apotropia, still he's allowed to make her take an oath in general, even on things that are happening in the home, to make sure everything is being used in an appropriate manner. And the Gemara says, Tashma come, and here Amru lo Rabbi Eliezer, they said to Rabbi Eliezer about what Rabbi Eliezer said, that he can make her take an oath on anything. The response was, Ein adam dorim nachash b'chfifa. A person's not going to live together with a snake in a basket, meaning to say you can't live like that. A wife is not going to be able to live if she's constantly being forced to take oaths, and the husband is always not trusting her. So the Gemara says, now if you say that Rabbi Eliezer went so far as to say that even lechatchila he's making her take the oath, that's a good response. It makes sense. That's not a way that a husband and wife can live. But if all Rabbi Eliezer was saying is that once she's taking an oath on the business-related issues, she also takes an oath on the home-related issues, so then my nafka lamina, so what's the difference to her in that case? That's not going to be a real problem for their relationship. But the Gemara says, no, it still could be a problem. Because she'll say to him, since you're so careful after everything I do, I can't live with you, I can't live under these conditions. And the Gemara continues, Tashma, come and here, let's say you have a situation where a person did not exempt his wife from taking oaths and from taking nedarim, and he said that, and he set her up as the storekeeper, or he made her the caretaker over the property. He's allowed to make her take an oath anytime that he wants. But if he didn't make her the storekeeper, he didn't make her the apotropis, then he's not able to make her take an oath. But Rabbi Eliezer says, even though she's not the storekeeper, even though she's not the apotropis, he is allowed to make her take an oath anytime he wants. Because there is no wife that isn't at least going to be an apotropis. She's going to somehow be a caretaker, at least for a moment, during the lifetime of her husband, on her spindle and on her dough. And so therefore it does seem to be that Rabbi Eliezer is saying, even if it's not through a Gilgul Shvua, he can even lechatchila make her take an oath. And Amru Lo, the Brisa continues, they said back to him, to Rabbi Eliezer, the same response, a person cannot live together with a snake in these small quarters. Shma mino lechatchila, shma mino. You see from there that lechatchila, Rabbi Eliezer was saying he can make her take an oath. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, Kasav lo neder ushvua ein li olayich. What happens if, let's say, the husband wrote to his wife a stipulation in the marriage that I'm not going to make you take any oaths, ein yochel hashbiyah. So then he cannot make her take an oath. Avol mashbiyah es yarsheha ve'es haboyim b'reshusa. However, he is able to make, let's say, those who inherit her, or those who are acting because of her, through her, let's say they purchase the rights to her ksuba, those people, he's allowed to make them take an oath. Rashi over here says, Avol mashbiyahu es yarsha im girsha v'mesa v'yarsha toven heimenu ksuba. So let's say you have a situation where he divorces her, and then she dies, and now those who inherit her, they're coming to claim the ksuba. So nishboim shvuas yarshin. Rashi says there's a shvua they have to actually take to collect the ksuba. That's called the shvuas yarshin. Hamafureshes b'Mesechet Shvuas. It's explained in Mesechet Shvuas. Shvua shelo pakadetanu b'shas misa v'lo amrolanu koilam lachein v'lo matzanu bein shtaroseha sheshtar ksubasa paru. We didn't find anywhere, we didn't see anywhere that the shtar has already been paid off, and therefore they're taking this oath that they are owed the ksuba. Or let's say people who come on her account, meaning let's say you have a situation where she sold the ksuba to others, and again she was divorced, Mason, she dies, and now the lekuchos, those who purchase it, they want the ksuba. And they make the same shvua. It's called the shvuas hayarshin. So the point is, he can't make her take a shvua, but he is able to make the yarshim, or the boim b'reshusa, he can make them take a shvua. And the Mishnah continues, Neder u'shvua ein li olayich ve'al yarshayich ve'al boim b'reshusech. Let's say he makes a clear stipulation in the marriage, he's not going to make her take an oath, there's going to be no oath upon you, not on your yarshim, and not anyone that you sold the rights to. So he extended that stipulation, then Eino yachol hashbiya lo hi v'lo yarsheha v'lo es haboim b'reshusa. Then he cannot make them take an oath, not her, not the yarshim, and not those that come on her account. Avol yarshav mashbiyan osav ve'es yarshav ve'es haboim b'reshusa. But let's say he has yarshim, his yarshim, let's say he dies, his inheritors, so now they are able to make her take a shvua, they can make her yarshim take a shvua, they can make those who are coming after her take a shvua as well. But if the stipulation that he made in the marriage was neder u'shvua ein li v'lo l'yarshi v'lo l'boim b'reshusi olayich v'al yarshayich v'al aboim b'reshusayich, let's say he says, I'm not going to make an oath, those who inherit me won't make you take an oath, and those who come on my account won't make you take an oath, and your inheritors won't have to take an oath, and those who come after you won't have to take an oath. If he puts all of that in the stipulation, Eino yachol hashbiya, then he cannot make her take an oath. Lahu v'lo yarsha v'lo haboim b'reshusa, lo osa v'lo yarsha v'lo haboim b'reshusa. He can't do it. Anyone who comes after him is yarshim, and he can't do it to her. Anyone who comes after her or to her yarshim. And the Mishnah continues, Halcha mikever balo lebeis avia. Let's say she goes from the grave of her husband, meaning immediately from the time her husband dies, she goes straight to her father's house, meaning she doesn't deal at all with his property. O shechazru let's say she goes back to her father-in-law's house. She never became someone who took care of the property. So in that situation, she didn't deal with the property at all. So then the Yorshim are not able to be mashpia her. They can't make her take an oath. Now let's say she did become an apotropis. She's taking care of property. So then Hayorshim mashpia osa lost lavo. So the Yorshim are allowed to make her take a shvua on things that were from that point forward in the future. They ain't mashpia osa mashavar, but they can't make her take an oath from anything from the past, from anything before. Rashi over here says al asid lavo al asik shalachar misa shaloikva biyada klum, that she was doing after that point in time, that she didn't hold anything back for herself, that she didn't keep things she wasn't supposed to. The hashta nechasim the yasmin, because at that point already it really is the property of the orphan, so they can make her take an oath regarding that. V'lo mahanya behu p'tor didei. The fact that the husband had exempted her from an oath doesn't exempt her from these future business dealings. But al sha'avar al esek shevechai bala, but anything she was doing during the lifetime of her husband, she doesn't have to take an oath on, assuming we're talking about a situation where she was exempted from that oath. And the Gemara says, Shavua Maya Vidita. Rashi over here explains, Shavua Maya Vidita, Ezu Shavua Stam, Sheisha Chayeves Labala Lo Yarshav. What Shavua are we talking about? What Shavua is it that a wife is chayev to her husband or to those who inherit him? The Katani Dechilo Patra Mashbia, that it says that if he doesn't exempt her, then she does take the oath. V'chi Patra in Mashbia, but if he does exempt her, then she doesn't have to take the oath. What are we discussing over here? Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav. Rav Yehuda says that Rav says, and we'll continue with this discussion in the next video, on Daf Pei Zayin Amud Aleph.